I never thought a single note pinned to my front door would spark one of the most satisfying moments of standing up for myself. But there it was, a wedding invitation. It wasn't for me, and it didn't mention my name. Instead, it named a place I knew well, my family's old farmhouse, now called Maplewood Estate. The invitation was for two strangers, Emma and Lucas Reed, planning to marry on my land in just a few weeks. At first, I thought it was some weird joke. But the paper was thick and elegant, the gold lettering raised and shiny. This wasn't a prank, it was serious. I held my coffee on the porch, confused, then shocked, then furious. My name's Alex Ramsey, 40, and I'm an architect. 6 months ago, after my grandmother passed, I moved back to my hometown of Fairview to fix up her Victorian farmhouse. It sat on 5 acres, once famous for its rose gardens and native plants, thanks to my grandma, Grace Ramsey. She was a well-known gardener in town, and her work was featured in old gardening magazines decades ago. After her death, the house and grounds had fallen into disrepair. Roof leaks, broken pipes, and wild overgrown plants everywhere. But the bones of the place were still magnificent. I took the invitation inside and dialed the number on it. After a few rings, a chipper woman answered, "Heritage Events, this is Emma." Trying to stay calm, I told her there must be a mistake. "You're holding your wedding on my private property," I said. "Oh, that's about parking," she said like it was obvious. "We told guests to park on Cedar Street, so your driveway won't be blocked." "No," I said, "my patience gone. You're using my home for your wedding without my okay." There was a pause. Then Emma's tone sharpened. "The Reed wedding's been booked for months. We paid the Heritage Society a venue fee. It's on their official site." I sighed, rubbing my forehead. The Heritage Society? I never heard of them claiming my land. I told her again, firmly, "This is my home. No one asked me for permission." Emma laughed, cold and sharp. "I have a contract that says otherwise. Take it up with Claire Adams at the Heritage Society. We have over 150 guests coming." She hung up before I could say more. I stared at the phone, stunned. The Heritage Society wasn't something I belonged to. Grandma bought this land to keep it private, outside all neighborhood groups. I searched online. Sure enough, there was a fancy website for the Heritage Society listing several historic places in town. And right there was my grandma's house, called Maplewood Estate, Fairview's timeless gem. Photos showed my home and gardens, taken recently without my knowledge. The site said bookings started at $3,500. At the bottom, it named Claire Adams as the bookings manager. I knew her. Claire was president of the nearby Willow Creek Neighborhood Association, the big gated community right next to my property. I'd met her before when she showed up with a folder full of neighborhood rules, insisting they applied to me. I told her they didn't and threw the papers away. I grabbed my coat and drove to the Neighborhood Association office, a small brick building with polished windows. The receptionist, a young woman with a tight bun, smiled politely. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, I need to see Claire Adams." "It's urgent." After a tense wait, I was led into a conference room. Claire sat at the head of a long table, flanked by a few board members. She looked perfect, blonde hair, sharp suit, and cool blue eyes that didn't warm when she smiled. "Mr. Ramsey," she said smoothly, "how can I help you?" I cut to the chase. "You're advertising my home as a wedding venue, taking money and letting strangers plan events there, all without my permission." Claire's smile didn't falter. "Your grandmother signed an agreement last year to include Maplewood Estate in the Heritage Society's program." She motioned to a man who slid a paper across the table. I grabbed it, my heart sinking. It looked like a contract with my grandmother's signature. But I recognized it instantly. Fake. Grandma was in hospice care that day, barely able to hold a pen. "That signature is a forgery," I said flatly. She never agreed to this. She bought this property to avoid this kind of interference. Claire's smile turned cold. "The agreement is binding. The Heritage Society helps protect historic properties and raises money for upkeep." A woman next to her spoke up. 60% of the booking fees go to maintenance. It benefits the community." I laughed, bitter. "I've seen no money, and I never agreed to this." Their eyes flickered uneasily. Claire cleared her throat. "There's a reserve fund and we plan to talk to you about improvements once you settled in. How many bookings? I asked quietly. 3 this season, said the woman. The Reed wedding and 2 others. I shook my head. I'm contacting my lawyer. Claire stood. Be careful, Mr. Ramsey. The Willow Creek Association has powerful friends in town. I turned to leave. Is that a threat? She smiled, I see. Just a fact. Sometimes it's better to cooperate. The threat stuck with me as I drove to my grandmother's old lawyer's office. James Ellison had known Grandma well. He looked at the fake contract and frowned. This is outrageous, he said. Eleanor was fiercely protective of her land. This isn't just fraud, it's a power grab. He handed me a folder full of documents, old deeds, letters rejecting zoning changes, and city notices confirming the property's independence. She knew they'd come for it, I said quietly. James nodded. And she gave you the tools to fight. Back at the house, I walked through the gardens with fresh eyes. Despite the neglect, the flowers were fighting back, bright spring blooms bursting through the weeds. The gazebo stood proud, though weathered. I understood why brides would want this place. But it was mine. That evening, a battered pickup pulled up. Walter Mason, Grandma's longtime gardener, stepped out. Heard you've got trouble with Claire, he said, joining me on the porch. Walter had watched the neighborhood association's slow creep for years. They started small, he said. Complaints about overgrown branches, letters about community sharing. Your grandmother told Claire exactly where to go. He chuckled. Now, they're forging signatures and selling your home. What should I do about the Reed wedding? I asked. Walter smiled slyly. You've got 3 choices. Let it happen and fight later. Stop it and deal with angry guests. Or make it so terrible no one wants to come. I raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Grandma's words echoed in my mind. Sometimes, the best way to fight unfairness is to be unfair right back. Make it unforgettable. Walter filled me in on Claire's growing power. The way she pushed out dissenters, how the Heritage Society grew without real permission, and how most folks were too scared to push back. The next Saturday, just before the Reed wedding, 3 trucks rolled up my driveway. One delivered 20 bright portable toilets, lined up like sentinels across the lawn. Another spread pest control warning signs. The last brought heavy equipment, a bulldozer ready to dig. Neighbors watched curiously, whispering about the commotion. Claire stormed in, sunglasses perched on her head. What's all this? Claire demanded. I smiled. Renovations. New drainage, a koi pond, garden redesign. We start Monday. Her face went pale. The Reed wedding is next weekend. Oh, that event you scheduled without permission? Not happening here. This is my property. Just then, Emma Reed arrived, shocked by the portable toilets and signs. What's going on? She asked. Claire tried to soothe her, but I interrupted. You forged my grandmother's name and sold this venue without consent. Tears filled Emma's eyes. I paid $7,000. Where do we go now? Emma's fiancé, Lucas, looked lost. I offered an alternative, a nearby lodge with availability and a discount. Word spread fast. The neighborhood board held an emergency meeting. Claire was suspended, forced to refund, and my property's independence was officially confirmed. Weeks later, Emma and Lucas sent thanks from their new venue. As the garden bloomed, I knew we had protected more than land. We preserved a legacy.